Yes, I can count and sing. Speaking of counting, I can't talk and sing. I've stopped counting now, but I've got my pen on, bit I got to. Speaking of counting, grab an atlas. Never mind why, just grab an atlas. The man says grab an atlas, then grab a flaming atlas. Don't be sitting there being in a quandary. Why have you got a cob on? Just get an atlas. And when you've got your atlas, open it to the Channel Islands and have a beak at that. Just shove your face in it and say, hello, look at that, the Channel Islands. And then count them. Why? Why? Always they want to know why. What is it about the world that they won't do anything without knowing why? What do you mean, why do I want to know? Behave. So here we go. This week's writing competition, for which you could win the top 10 singles from next Sunday's network chart, is a doddle. A piece of cake. A Brahma. All I want to know is, how many islands make up the Channel Islands? I only know about the ones with names. I don't want to be mauling about with some 2 men and a goat job. None of them. The big uns. Going down to Sark and Herm and that lot. Nothing smaller than Sark and Herm. You see? So that's it. I want you to tell me how many they are. And when you do, if you get it right and you're the first out the hat, then you win a prize. Top 10 singles on the network chart. Here's Queen and a smashing record called... To Break Free. Thank you. Well, we very shortly will break free of this responsibility of trying to sound interesting and intelligent when talking about dross. Although, I don't know, we have got the phone in. If you want to join us on the phone in, you can do, straight after the 11 o'clock news.
The 11 o'clock news, this is Alan King. The ice-cool raiders who conned their way into a strong room of deposit boxes in London are thought to have escaped with loot worth some £10 million. The thieves rifled 113 boxes in the vault opposite Harrods, helping themselves to cash, gold and jewellery. Ben Brown reports.
When the Knightsbridge Safety Deposit Centre was opened 4 years ago, it was said to be one of the most secure in the world. But the raiders got into the strong room with a plan of breathtaking simplicity. They posed as wealthy businessmen, but once inside, pulled guns from their briefcases and handcuffed 3 security guards. Detective Inspector Dick Leach of the Flying Squad says it was brilliantly planned.
They are professional men who have acted very coolly, but my men will be working here for at least another day, 2 days, trying to sort out what has gone.
And tonight, the firm's managing director admitted he'd been totally fooled by the thieves. Ben Brown, IRN, Central London.
Colonel Oliver North is being questioned about a possible British involvement in aiding the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. North is winding up his testimony to the special Irangate hearing in Washington. From there, Andrew Manderstam.
North was asked about his relationship with David Walker, the head of a British-based security firm. It was suggested that the company might have been approached to help train and give other support to the US-backed rebels in Nicaragua. Colonel North responded he would prefer to discuss any connection behind closed doors.
I don't feel particularly comfortable discussing it in open session. I think there are equities that belong to other governments that are at stake here.
The chairman of the Irangate Committee agreed. References to any British involvement are likely to be heard in secret. Andrew Manderstam, IRN, Washington.
The spy book that's banned in Britain has gone on sale in America. Copies of Spycatcher by ex-MI5 agent Peter Wright are not only being marketed at US readers, but British visitors who can come home with a book the government has stopped them from buying here. Jill Tardif, manager of a top New York bookstore, says the ban means she's having no trouble emptying the shelves.
We don't have to persuade people. We've gotten so many calls today because the article in the New York Times, and of course the interest it's generated over in England. We've gotten several calls already from overseas, and we're collecting orders, so I don't think we're going to need too much of a persuasive stand on this book.
A grandmother known as the Torture Queen of London has escaped a prison sentence after promising a judge she'll shut down her brothel and retire to the Spanish Sun. Knightsbridge Crown Court heard that 63-year-old Adelaide Serrano tied up, tortured and humiliated her customers, who paid handsomely for their pleasure. Simon Israel reports.
Madame Angela packed her flat with kinky equipment, including a set of stocks and a whipping stool, for what she said was bottom marks for naughty boys. And during a week's surveillance, police were amazed to see 60 men stagger out of her place. The judge said that this was the end of the road for her, but she says she's never done anyone any harm.
What I did was a necessity for people that wanted that sort of thing. But I still maintain I've never hurt anybody, never could, and never would.
Mrs. Serrano was given a 6-month suspended prison sentence and fined £1,000. She says she's packing her bags to join her husband in Spain.
Independent Radio News.
Suppose we'd better do this.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And the telephone number is Preston 56 1000. Hey, I suppose I'd better tell you about the cricket this coming Thursday. We're playing at... Is it Exton? Well, it's near Chorley. Yeah, Exton ROF. And we're playing against Astley Village Cricket Team. Hey. And we're going to Wazham. Because we've been practised up against Fiery Fred. And I've not... The reason I'm talking now instead of going to the phones is because I haven't moved the phone thing. There, now I have. How do? Ian. Hello, Ian. Hello, Ian. Ian isn't there, so that was clever of me, wasn't it? He appears not to be there, Rodney. What have you done with Ian? Well, he isn't now. You never... Dear me. Well, we're going to go to John in a second, because I don't know what's happened to Ian. Let's try him again. Hello, Ian. I think we've got a problem, actually. Just a minute. Hey, day, 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 day. Nah, give me the other one. This one's dead. Oh, I give up. I'm going to play an advert while I hit this with an hammer.
It's flash, it's cool, it's wild, it's free. It's a hit, it's a Coke is it. It's heading downtown, it's Saturday night. It's hanging around, it's doing it right. It's just how you feel when you know it's for real. It's a kick, it's a kick, it's a hit, it's a hit, it's a Coke, yeah, Coca-Cola is it.
The holiday season is peak time for burglars, so make sure your home and contents are well covered with AA Homeshore, the new for old policy that's fast, secure and simple. Look around you. How much would it cost to replace all your possessions? There's no need to list and value everything. Just ask the operator for free phone AA AutoQuote today for your quotation. With AA Homeshore, you could be covered immediately.
Fed up with spending a small fortune on hotel holidays year after year? Tired of touring caravans? Well, join the people in the know and invest in a static caravan from Westfield Caravans. A static gives you spacious luxury at a low cost. And where better to choose a static than Westfield Caravans? Because we're dedicated to statics and only statics. So our reputation rests on perfection in our field, so to speak. You'll feel at home with Westfield Caravans at the end of Mowbray Drive, Blackpool.
As a preview to E-Day on August the 1st, this Thursday's Red Rose Advertiser will contain a special 8-page motor pullout with news of the latest cars from all the major manufacturers. Here We Go will be packed with detailed information.
Rose Advertiser!
With advertisements from local dealers to help you decide what to buy for E-Day. So don't get left on the grid as E-Fever grips Lancashire. Get revved up with...
Rose Advertiser!
Here we go. How do, Jean?
Good evening. How do?
Are you all right?
Yes, thank you.
Well, you sound chirpy enough. What can we do for you?
Oh, yes, it's marvellous. I come to alive at this time of night. I don't know how you must anyway. Now, I am now going to speak about the district nurse who phoned you last Thursday evening, who was supposed to be suffering from epilepsy. You remember how she was very upset that for 2 years her life had been wrecked?
Yes, go on.
And she'd had, it had followed a violent blow on the head. There's
Yes.
no history of
Are
it.
you going to tell me about it?
Do you remember this?
I remember the case, yes.
Yes, good.
The call.
Well, I thought you would. Now, I have spoken before, Mr. Beswick, with you about asthma in the past. You may remember.
But, Jean, at the risk of sounding far more rude than I need to be, can we get to what you want to talk about now?
I am an osteopath naturopath, and I have spoken to you in the past, so I'm just refreshing your memory on that.
Yeah, I want to know what you want now, Jean.
Now, I was very concerned about this lady, and I know she might not be listening, and there might not anybody be able to make contact with her. But I am quite convinced that she doesn't suffer from epilepsy. I know she...
Well, Jean, I'm sorry. Tell me what evidence and what qualification you've got to make such a diagnosis from a phone call.
I'm telling you that I am an osteopath.
I don't care what you are. I want to know what your evidence is from a phone call.
It isn't evidence. It's what I heard her say on the phone, that she had had a blow on the head.
Fine.
And after that, she suffered what appeared to be epileptic fits. And it is now being controlled, and I believe it is simulating epilepsy. And this can happen through...
I'm sorry,
cranial
love. I am
damage.
not prepared to allow you to make a diagnosis of a person you have never spoken to, never met, never examined, never had any opportunity to converse with.
Mr. Beswick,
I'm sorry, but I consider...
putting to you-
I do not care what you're putting to me. You are not putting it to me any longer, madam. Goodbye. That, even if you have any qualifications, and I care not whether you have or have not, even if you have, I'm not prepared to discuss it with you, because I think what you have just done is totally and utterly unacceptable, indeed reprehensible, and if you are the best, whatever it is you claim to be in the world, I would not consult you on that basis. If that is how you do business, you ought to be a bankrupt. However, Jean, if on another occasion you would like to discuss your theory, then I'll be happy to discuss it with you, but for that you'll need to ring back. How do Stephen?
If you ring Beswick on the phone, you will hear his dulcet tone. He will say to you, "How do?" with a voice sparkling and new. You will argue down the wire. You will say you're a blooming liar. Then Mr. Beswick, who's very fat, will say to you, "Get off, you prat." He'll cut you off and show you up. You then decide you've got to throw up. Goodbye, you gobhead.
The last line didn't rhyme. How do Martin?
Hello, I'd like to talk about national radio, mate.
Go on.
Well, I think it's rather appalling that the way they govern what becomes a hit and what doesn't.
Inevitably, radio stations are going to govern what does and does not become a hit.
No, can I name the radio station concerned?
I presume you're talking about Radio 1.
Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah.
Well, they just give in to, like, blatant airplay to safe music by big groups.
I'm sorry, the answer to that is they don't.
Of course they do.
They do not.
Why not?
Well, if you ask me why they don't, I don't know. But if you're asking me what evidence I have, the evidence is that they do not only play large record label music.
Well, can I just give some of my evidence?
You can if you like, but what's about number 5 in the charts at the moment? Star Trekking, that is on the Bark record label. I've never heard of it before, have you?
Bark record label? No, I'm afraid I haven't.
No, well, that's about number 5 in the charts at the moment. I rest my case. Let's hear your evidence.
Recently on a morning show on Radio 1, they started a thing called Chart Beater in which you could vote for a record. Yeah?
So you tell me. I wouldn't know. I don't listen to it.
No, you ring up and you vote for this record. Any
Well, I
record.
can imagine
any
how it
record.
operates. Will you tell me what that suggests in terms of evidence?
Well, they're putting 10 records above against each other.
Obviously. Will you tell me what that
You know, some
is
are
as
by
evident?
some are by rather large groups, which have played stuff like
Well,
every morning.
if some
past
are
10
by
morning.
rather... Look, the truth is that the vast majority of the listening public want to hear not new music, but music they identify with, music they recognise. If Genesis bring out a record, people expect to hear it frequently on the radio. If the Rolling Stones bring out a record, they expect to hear it. If somebody called Boogie Box High brings out a record, nobody in their right mind would imagine it would be sensible to play it. But they all are doing, and the reason they are doing is because a lot of people think it's George Michael. That isn't anything other than the truth. Now, if you can't live with it, then die with it.
But why-
that is how the world operates.
But why bother putting two records together? One that's been played loads and one's that's not hardly been played maybe once the day before. Why bother putting them against each other? People
I'm not
vote.
really sure
Vote
what...
who's going to win.
Well, it isn't obvious what is going to win, to be honest, but if you think it's obvious, fine. It doesn't really matter. It is a piece of entertainment. I don't know why I'm defending the policy of Radio 1, which I think is a crap-awful station anyway. But to be honest, their music policy isn't that far away from our own. It's not quite as good as ours, in my view.
I'd say yours is.
But the truth is that radio audiences want to hear the music they recognise. They don't want to hear Joe Pig and his singing trotters. They don't give a monkey's cuss about John Pig and his singing trotters, unless John Pig and his singing trotters happens to have had 19 hit records.
Well, I'd say, you said about your radio station, I'd say yours was quite a bit better than theirs.
Well, it's a matter of opinion.
You are playing a much wider band of music.
Well, you must say not... You must not address that to me, because I don't pick it. It's actually picked by Paul Fairbairn. But the fact still remains that we play, except on this programme, generally recognisable music.
Like Morris
the same as
Brown,
Well, no, I said except on this programme.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said...
I throw in some of the crap that you have to listen to, and an awful lot of other stuff that's played on this record, on this programme, isn't played on other programmes on Red Rose Radio. This is used as a dump. This is like the skip of music. People come up and put records into it, and I play them because I don't give a monkey's cuss, because I think it's all crap anyway. But if you're running a pop music station, then you've got to play popular music. You're not going to play music that 18 people with bones through their noses bought once. You've got to buy music that millions of people want to listen to.
Yeah, okay, I suppose so.
Of course you suppose so. It's called being right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
You have been Beswicked.
No doubt the lawyers of Joe Pig and the Trotters will be on the phone tomorrow. How do, Michael?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
I've not talked to you before, but...
what do you want?
This is my first time.
Yes,
I just
obviously.
want
If you've not spoken to me before, then this obviously is your first time.
Well,
never mind. What do you want?
Well, I just want to put a comment over, if I can, Alan, please. I'm interested in the government policy on tobacco, if I may put that comment over.
Tell us about it.
Well, the government policy on tobacco, they're still selling it. It's a legal commodity.
The government don't sell it.
Well, I mean, the government allow it to be sold.
Well, yes, that is correct. But what you said was the government is selling it. That's wrong.
Yeah, well, maybe that's wrong. May I carry on?
Yes.
But at the same time, they have on the side of the packet, as you're probably aware, a very serious warning that it can kill you. That's the bottom line. I mean, they say it can cause you serious damage.
Well, what it says on the packet is what it says. If you want to put an extrapolation on that is not there, that is up to you. But what it says...
But at the same time...
What it says is it can seriously damage your health.
Yes.
It doesn't say it can kill you.
But at the same time...
Look, I'm sorry, Michael, can we just establish that we have to have things right?
Yes.
You've made two statements so far. You've said that the government sell tobacco, they don't, and that cigarettes carry a warning that they can kill you, which they don't.
Well...
There's no well. Both those statements that I've just made...
The disease and bronchitis, Alan, can kill you.
Can we just debate what the warning is on the side of the packet? You said it says cigarettes can kill.
Well, that was the bottom line, actually, Alan.
No, that isn't the bottom line. There's about 3 lines on
There is 3 lines, yeah.
On a packet of 20, and the bottom line doesn't say it can kill you.
No, it says smoking can seriously damage your health. It can give you lung cancer, bronchitis, and other chest complaints.
Quite. So that doesn't say it can kill you.
Well, no. All right.
So we've established that as well.
Okay,
so on the second point you want to make, you're wrong. What's your third, and we'll show you why that's wrong.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough, you're okay. My second point was, I can't understand how they can, I've lost my word now. It's, you know, Bupa, the thing that they try to
I am
promote.
aware. They try to do what?
They try to promote the independent from the National Health Service.
I'm sorry, you're wrong again. The government is not in any way attempting to promote private medicine.
Well, I thought they were. I thought that was
I don't care what you thought. We've already established what you think has been wrong twice, and you're wrong this time. The government has in no way attempted to promote private medicine.
Well, not private medicine in a sense, Alan, but the system where you one pays.
No, I'm sorry. That's called private medicine.
Yes,
the
well, that's
government,
what I was trying to say.
the government has not tried to promote Bupa or any other private medicine plan. None. The government has promoted none of those. It has permitted them, but then the previous government permitted them too. It has permitted them, but it has not promoted them.
I see. See, the only thing I can't understand is why a government in power, and the government that's got in its third reign of power, can allow this thing, which in my mind is crazy, to go on. You know, in one way...
Because they believe in the freedom of the public. Our governments consistently over the years... Our governments consistently over the years have believed it is better to persuade than legislate. And I can see nothing wrong with that.
No, I can understand that, Alan.
Good. Well, you couldn't when you came on. You do now, so we've made progress. How do David?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
Hello. Yes, I'd like to discuss the Church of England's Synod meeting in York today. They've made comment about Freemasonry.
They have indeed. What they've done is they've added their support to the report.
Yeah, what I'd like to point out to yourself and to your audience is the fact that the Freemasons donate many thousands of pounds to various cathedrals up and down this country.
Does that buy you the right to worship false gods?
Well, no.
Well, let's answer the question first of all. Does that buy an organisation the right to worship false gods?
No.
No. Does it buy the organisation the right to be exempt from criticism by the church?
No.
Well, the Freemasons have been criticised by the church. Are they now going to pull their money out?
I think it's rather unreasonable of the church to...
Are they going to pull their money out?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Now, you're about to say it's unreasonable of the church to express a view, are you?
Yes, indeed.
Do the Freemasons not believe in freedom? Let's face it, their very name, Freemasons.
Yeah, well, they do believe in freedom.
Well, the church has done a very thorough job on a report. Whether the report is accurate or not is for others to decide.
Yes.
But they've done a very thorough job on that report. Are you suggesting that they should do the old government trick now and squash it? Or should they believe it?
Squash it or believe it. Please yourself. But,
well, I'm asking you. I've made my decision. I'm asking you.
Well, I think they should squash it.
They should squash it. They should say, look, just because this committee that we appointed believes it, and just because a majority of the synod believes it, we should squash it. What reason do you give?
The reason, because I think most of them have no idea what it's all about.
Well, perhaps if the immature little clowns that get involved in that stupid organisation called the Freemasons, if they didn't keep their pokey didn't keep their pokey little secrets, then perhaps more people would know about it.
It's a little bit of an unfair remark to make about...
My job is not being fair. Accuracy is what I tend to deal in. Fairness is the problem of a Freemason or a church, perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm only a human being. I wear my legs right down to my ankles.
We all are human, you know.
Well, I'm prepared to accept that. I was merely saying that I was.
Well, we all are.
Yes. I'm wondering why you're suggesting that I ought to be fair when I have a preference for accuracy. I think belonging to the Freemasons is an immature thing to do. I think it's a very silly boys' club. It's like Boy Scouts.
Yeah, well, there's about 750,000 would disagree.
Well, that's all right. There's about that many in psychiatric hospitals. I suppose they disagree with it as well. It's about right. It's a good balance.
No, I can't agree with you.
Well, let's come back then to this thing that you think the church should squash the report. What should they do? They've paid for this report. They commissioned this report. Are you suggesting that they should squash it and not believe it?
Well,
Are you suggesting that they should believe it?
What I suggest is, why on earth should the church even consider it?
Because the church has had lots of complaints from individuals. The church has a job to do, and one of its jobs is to look after itself. One of its jobs is to look after its own morality and its own rules and regulations. The church, rightly or wrongly, believes that Freemasonry is not conducive to church membership. It's not yet decided to throw them out, although I for one hope they do, but it hasn't done yet. Now when they do, fine, the church might get a bit more respect from me then. Or are you suggesting that they should squash it just because the Freemasons give them money?
No.
One wonders what your mutual God would think of that.
Whoever they've received complaints from, they are people acting in complete ignorance because they don't know what it's all about.
So what you're saying is the only way you can ever do a authoritative report or even hold opinions on the Freemasons is to join.
Well, yes,
but then again, only the man at the very, 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 very top is the man entitled, because of course everything below him, he's a secret. I mean, I don't know whether you're a Freemason, and perhaps you'd like to tell us, are you?
Yes.
And what degree are you?
Well, I'm at the top.
You're not.
Why would you say that?
Because you're not. There's only one at the top, and it ain't you, pal.
Yeah, well...
You're as high as you think you can get. There are degrees beyond you, and you know it.
There are.
So you're not at the top, are you?
I'm not at that
No one's ever convinced me before that Freemasons were liars. How many tops are there? When you buy a bottle of milk,
There's
which
only
bit's
one
the...
top.
So...
Think of the head man, yeah?
I'm sorry, David, I said what degree are you? You said you're at the top. You are not at the top.
I'm not going to tell you what degree I am.
Well, fine, you said you were at the top. Now you're telling me you're not.
No.
Are you representing the Freemasons? Because if you are, I now have them down as liars.
It's a bit of a misunderstanding.
I'm not interested in your misunderstanding. If I say to you, are you at the top, and you say yes, I'm sorry. If you mean no, that's not a misunderstanding. That is a barefaced contradiction.
I'm not at the top, no.
Right, so your statement now is that you're not at the top.
Well, I'm talking about...
In other words, David, there are people above you.
Yes.
Right. And there are things above you that you know nothing about because you silly little boys that do that thing hold your secrets from each other. In other words, there are secrets beyond you, David.
Yes.
Yes. So you're not in a position to say whether the Freemasons are good or bad. You know about as much as I do. You have no right to an opinion, David. You are not at the top. You are not the person to express the opinion. All you are, David, is either a very befuddled man or a liar. I will give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're a befuddled man. You make a very good Freemason. Goodbye. I'll do Margaret.
Hello, Alan. I want to talk about legal aid.
Go on.
Well, I had the course to get legal aid for an accident I had. And they wanted £550, which I paid weekly, up to about the 10th payment. I paid it monthly, up to the 10th payment. And I received, a cheque. And the solicitor said I should get the legal aid back. I should be reimbursed with this. Now, I received the cheque on the 31st of March. And I've been to my solicitor and I've wrote to the legal aid and I haven't heard anything yet.
Well, unfortunately,
could do?
Yeah, I think you've got to go back to your solicitor, I'm afraid.
Well, I've been back twice.
Well, you're going to have to go back again and rattle a few doors and say, come on, what are you doing? I want to know now what you were doing, what you have done so far and what you propose to do next.
Because she said I should be reimbursed with it.
Well, that's what you should be doing. You should be saying, fine, this is what you've told me, now why isn't it happening, and I want to know now what stage my case is at. So make an appointment with your solicitor and demand information.
And should I get it all back?
I don't know. That would depend on all sorts of things.
They
which
said
are
if I won the case, I'd
Margaret,
get my money back.
I cannot tell you whether you should get your money back or not. I do not know. If your solicitor has told you that, then that ought to be the case. That is why your solicitor is paid all that money, to get it right.
Well, the last time
but I cannot confirm or deny the information. Margaret, what you need to do is make an appointment, go and see her, and demand to know what is happening. And when you've discovered what is happening, demand to know what's going to happen next.
Well, she said it's got nothing to do with her, really.
Well, it either has or has not got something to do with her. If it's got nothing to do with her, then find out who it has got something to do with and find out what you need to do.
All right, thank you.
All right, love.
Much.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
How do Ian?
Good evening, Mr. Beswick. I've got 3 slight criticisms, if you don't mind hearing them.
I'm not bothered.
Well, yesterday, when you was on It's Your Turn, you said I was driving along listening to the World Service and Debbie Harry and Blondie were on.
Yes.
And you said it was from their album Heart of Glass.
Yes.
Well, it was Parallel Lines.
Was it? Oh, well, there you go. I know nothing about pop music. Tell me what's next.
A more important one, a caller came on and she got a question actually right and you said, no, it's wrong. I've looked this up and it was Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush.
Yes.
The last one, when you was in the hoodie at the end. And you said it was 77. It was released February 78, got to #1 March 78. And she actually said 78. And
we shall check that. If she writes in and complains, we'll check that, because obviously I can't check it now. If she writes in and complains, I can do. I don't write the questions, fortunately, so I'm in the clear there. Go on.
Well, I thought it was your mistake, because you have a list of set answers, which can't really be wrong. And
well, they can be wrong. I don't write them. They can very easily be wrong. If the person that writes the question can get it wrong, all I do is read out the question, read out the answer.
Well,
I don't set them.
Set by the IBA or something?
Oh, the ex-set by the IBA. The set by Michelle Duckyard, if you must know.
Who's she?
She's the girl that sets the questions.
Just the girl from Red Rose?
Well, that's her job, yes, setting questions.
Well, it's not a very good show, is it? Getting something like that wrong.
Well, I don't know whether it's a good show or a bad show. It's the most listened to radio programme in Lancashire.
I'm not complaining about the show.
Well, I thought you said it was a good show. Make your mind up. Was that a good show or a bad show?
It's not a very good show by her.
Well, that's her problem.
Yeah.
Unemployment she may enjoy.
Well, you know. Anyway, about names.
Third one. Names?
I was reading...
Hang on a minute. What's names?
Names.
Oh, names. Sorry.
I was reading in the paper yesterday about...
The paper?
Paper.
Go on.
About the most unpopular names. And,
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to criticise.
I'm leading to it.
Oh, I see.
For obvious reasons, the names Adolf and Mara are the most unpopular for male and female. I was wondering if in future years the name Alan will be just as unpopular.
I'm hoping so.
Because it's obvious why, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's not a criticism. I've worked very hard to do my reputation.
To be notorious.
Yeah.
Fair enough then.
That last one wasn't a criticism. The second one wasn't me, and the first one I can't even remember. Oh yeah, parallel act. Well, I've always said I know note about pop music.
Okay, I'll bye-bye.
How do, Gerard?
Oh.
Yes.
Good evening. How do, Alan?
Excuse me a sec, I must just repeat something. If that woman that was on yesterday who Ian claims we did out of a prize, if she'd like to write in and tell us about it, we've got your name, we've got your address, but if you'd just like to write in and tell us about it, then perhaps we can correct that, if indeed it was wrong. How do, Gerard? I'm sorry about that.
How do, Alan? I'd like to talk about crime and law and order.
Go on.
The public's apathy towards crime when they see crime. I'll give you an instance which happened to us recently. We purchased, had some gates made for our front drive, and one night, they were put in one night, and then the next morning I got up, and one of the gates was missing, you see. So I jumped out of bed, and I said the gates were missing, so we couldn't do anything about it. But the next night I came in from work, and the other gate was missing, and I got to the wife, and I said to the wife, "Where's the other gate?" And she said that she saw the people taking the gate. And this is just an example of people's apathy towards crime. So I said to her, "Why didn't you say something
Well,
to
I
them?"
thought he might take offence.
Agreed.
Good night.
Good night, Alan.
Nice try.
I can send my girl a postcard, but I've much too much to say. I could write that girl a letter, but it just might go astray. So I'll sing my girl a love song, send it to my local DJ. All I need is a cassette recorder and a spool of TDK. You know I've got the blues, 'cause my baby's gone away. Oh yes she has. But I'm gonna tell the whole world how I feel. I'm a rolling spool of TDK. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you reside in the UK, then it's highly likely you pay income tax. But are you paying too much? If you're a business or an individual with a tax problem, then contact Jeff Edwards Tax Consultant on Wigan 722 709 for some friendly professional advice. That's Jeff Edwards on Wigan 722 709.
Hi, this is Mike Walsh from Blackpool Football Club, reminding you that our Centenary Fun Run is on Sunday, August the 2nd, starting at 12 noon. The run will be over 10 kilometres, that's 6.2 miles, and will be part of our centenary celebrations in our promotion drive to Division 2. All finishers will receive a commemorative medal supplied by the Burley Arms Country Pub at Warton and the Brewers Greenall Whitley. If you'd like to compete, simply collect an entry form from Blackpool Football Club, Red Rose Reception, or telephone Simon Morris at Blackpool FC on Blackpool 404 331.
Very nearly 28 minutes to tomorrow.
Win £50, £20, £15 each week at the Newmarket and M2 Market, Waterloo Road, Blackpool.
How do, John?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to take up your point about government health warnings on cigarettes.
Please do.
Yeah, you stated a moment ago that there are no government health warnings saying that smoking can kill you. But one of the
No, I didn't.
You did?
No, I didn't. That chap said it tells you on a packet of cigarettes there's a government warning saying that it can kill you. But it doesn't say that on a packet of cigarettes.
One of them says that smoking can cause fatal diseases.
Indeed.
And the definition of fatal...
No. A fatal disease is a disease that can kill you.
Causes death.
No, a fatal disease is a disease that can kill you. If you get, for example, and I'm sorry if anyone's listening to this that's got it, but if you get AIDS, that is a fatal disease. It will kill you. However, if you get lung cancer, that could kill you. But it's still a fatal disease. The disease has the ability to kill. It's a fatal disease. Doesn't mean it will kill you.
Have you ever thought of being a solicitor, Alan?
No, why should I?
If I ever get into trouble, I'll get in touch with you.
All right, I look forward to that. Ta-ra. The trouble is, only women ever get into touch with me when they're in trouble. How do, John?
All right, Alan.
Yeah?
I'd like to talk to you about, you know the way the papers put out all the stories at the moment, and they sort of spread hysteria and horror through the streets. I was thinking, like, you as a media man, like, does Red Rose do the same thing, or what?
I've no idea. You listen to it, you tell me.
Well, I only listen to your show as it goes on.
I don't even listen to this. I only listen to Radio 4, so I have no idea. No, I don't think we do it in the same way. Indeed, we haven't got the same time to do it. The tabloid press are headline seekers, aren't they? You know, gotcha and all that dross. But I'm sure we have upset people. I remember somebody coming on this phone in and complaining that we'd give out the name of someone who'd been killed in a railway accident, a railway employee that had been killed, and some of his family were very distressed. And whilst it is understandable that his family were very distressed, that is news, and I'm sorry he's dead, and I'm sorry he got killed, but it's still news.
It's a little bit. I'm certainly not for censorship of the press or anything like that, right? But isn't there any sort of? Can no one have a word in the press's ear and sort
yes,
of? Yes,
they can. There's an organisation called the Press Council. If you think the written press, and by that obviously I mean newspapers, if you think the written press has done something untoward, presented a story badly or hysterically and inaccurately, then you have the right to complain to the Press Council, and the newspaper has to justify its stance, justify its actions and its story to that Press Council.
Well, you know, some of the stories, right? Wouldn't the Pornography Act cover some of those stories they put out?
I don't think there is such a thing as a pornography act,
or
is there?
One of those indecent
Yes, they cover it. Yes, they cover it, but it's very difficult to assess what is and what is not offensive. If such and such a person did this with his or her bit of anatomy to somebody else, then that is an anatomical fact. There's nothing we can do about it.
Ah, yeah. Well, right, I'll think about that.
I'll leave you to think about it. How do, Neil?
Hello, Alan. I went to the doctor's the other day. I can't stop farting.
I don't think I want to know that. How do, Philip?
Hello.
Hello.
Alan, yeah. I would like to pick up a point that was made earlier, and in fact a statement you made, that the government doesn't encourage private medicine.
I didn't say they don't encourage it. I said they don't promote it. Tell me about when they've promoted
Can
it.
I make 2 points, really?
Well,
one is
make the one about promotion first.
Okay. All governments have, to a certain extent, had to promote private medicine. I'll give you an example.
Can we establish, Neil, I know it sounds awfully... Sorry, Philip, it sounds awfully pedantic, but can we establish what you perceive as being the meaning of the word promote?
The point I'd like to make about that is that, specifically, when hospitals are built, particularly teaching hospitals, a certain amount of public money is put into building facilities for private patients.
Yes.
Now, this is necessary because if we really want to employ...
No, I'm sorry. I think that is not evidence of them promoting something. If they put crash barriers up on the motorway, does that promote people trying to cross the central reservation? Well, does it or doesn't it?
Okay.
So, no, it does. Are you suggesting that... I'm sorry, I've asked you a question, Philip. Would you like to answer it? Do central reservation...
I would say promote in terms of encourage.
Well, no, I'm sorry. you've given an example of how they promote it. Now, I'm putting to you another service, another thing the government do. They build motorways, or they get local county authorities to build motorways. And when they've built them motorways, they pay for them and everything, and then they put on the motorway crash barriers. Now, are you telling me that that promotes people crashing into them, or is it merely providing a service to deal with what is already there?
I think we've got a slightly different scene here where...
It's your example, not mine.
You've got to allow a certain amount of private medicine.
No, like I said, got to allow. Got to allow isn't promote. Got to allow is not promote. Promote is to say, this is a good idea, have some of this, pal, go on, get that down your neck, it'll do you all right. That's promoting. To say, oh, heck, I've got a wart.
Alan,
I've got to live with it.
Can I turn it round, though, for the second point?
Feel free.
And that is to say that, much against my will, I see that this particular government, if not promotes, certainly doesn't discourage private medicine.
No, I'm absolutely with you on that. They do not discourage
it. I would like to know why this particular government is not actively promoting the National Health Service, why, in my opinion, the National Health Service has gradually been run down, and why we went through this last election campaign and were told the National Health Service is booming, whereas we all know that you can talk about increased spending in terms of more money every year, but of course, as the cost of living goes up, there must be more money every year. Why are we not getting an improved National Health Service with our supposedly increased standard of living? I'd just like to know your and any other listeners' reactions to that.
Well, that's a purely political question, and I'm not about to get involved. Yeah, purely political question. Pardon?
I'm a customer of the National Health Service, and my family are.
It is your misfortune. I hope you never have to cash in your chips, as they say.
I've done it once.
I, like everybody else, hear stories about the National Health Service not being able to deal with its problem. Eric Hudson, who played cricket with us, he's one of our sports reporters, one of our freelance people that deal with the programme on a Saturday, played cricket with us on Sunday. He received an injury, which basically meant that the bone came out of his finger and the rest of his finger was hanging down like somebody else's sausage, and he was in a mess. There was blood everywhere. He was rushed off to Lancaster Hospital at about 3 in the afternoon, and he was told, we can't do anything till 6:30. So all those people that tell me that the health service is still operating, I don't know. The injury was that serious that when he finally got to hospital in Preston, they kept him in overnight while they reassembled his finger. So why the Lancaster Hospital couldn't deal with it, I know not. But clearly it wasn't because there were too many doctors and they couldn't decide which one they wanted. It was probably that there weren't enough. I'm not criticising the hospital. No. It's a criticism of the lack of service. Having said that, we've still got to come back to the fact that our government tells us that the health service is costing more money than it ever did. There are more doctors and nurses than they ever did. I have no way of checking those figures. The electorate seem to believe them because they re-elected them with a fairly substantial majority. I'm not about to say whether I do or not because, as I just said, I cannot check those figures. I cannot check the validity of those figures. I do not believe the figures themselves will be lies. Politicians are never direct liars. Well, not never, but are rarely direct liars. They're just very clever at second-degree liars, if you like. So I don't know whether it's true. Clearly, there is dissatisfaction in the health service, and there is dissatisfaction with the health service. Now, as long as that is the status quo, then the government, in my view, ought to be damn well doing something about that dissatisfaction. But you cannot pay nurses more money, and this government has done. They gave the nurses a fairly substantial rise last time. You cannot pay them more money without either making more money available overall or taking it out of the National Health bucket. It appears, I know not, but it appears that this government chose to take it out of the National Health bucket. Perhaps they should have put that extra money into the service so that they could afford to pay the nurses almost what they deserve. They still don't pay them what they deserve, of course. So it's catch-21. But the truth is they do not encourage private medicine.
Yeah, I think
they go a long way to not discourage it. No. All right.
I just happen to think that it's a terrible thing that we seem to have got our priorities so distorted somewhere where we have to be talking about pennies deducted from this and that to keep wards open. My wife wants to make a point while we're on.
Well, unfortunately, your wife can't, because we only deal with one caller per phone call.
Cheers,
okay? Thanks, Philip. Bye-bye now. We shall talk to Joanne very shortly.